Now entering the Bitcoin Podcast Network.
Yeah. Welcome to the Bitcoin Podcast. We in outshine. Bitcoins, we got them. Acquire, never sell. But catch us rolling deep like Adele. Bitcoin, blockchains, cryptocurrencies. Three guys faded talking Bitcoin, no fee. That's the free Bitcoin podcast, insane. And adoption is still the only thing that matters, man.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Podcast.
Yeah.
Episode 233. I'm your first host, Marcello.
And I'm host number 2, Demteric.
I'm host number 3, Dr. Corey Petty. What
How
up?
was y'all's Thanksgiving?
Busy. I'm very hungover.
Yeah, I know. Let me tell you something about brining a turkey for 24 hours. If you're not doing that, you're not doing Thanksgiving right.
Can you
Point
explain
blank
that? What is that?
There's all
I've
kinds of
tried my
recipes.
turkey too.
All kinds of recipes that exist. There's a water per pound ratio. There's seasoning per pound ratio. It all depends on what you want to do. The bottom line is you soak that mofo for 24 hours straight. It's basically like a marinade, but it's high in salt content. And it pulls water out of the turkey and replaces it with your salt and seasonings. So then when you cook it, it's just moist and delicious, not dry. No one's complaining like, oh, this turkey's so nasty. It's just succulent. All of it. The dark meat, the white meat. It's amazing.
Hey, you put it in a bucket, pour it with water, put salt, a couple orange slices in there, and let it soak for a while in
Yeah.
the fridge.
If you came here to learn about crypto, tough shit. You're learning about how to brine a turkey.
Yeah. This is not that kind of show. All right. This is Thanksgiving. We're talking about turkey. Now, happy belated Thanksgiving to everyone.
For all you Americans out there, it's becoming like painfully obvious how much the rest of the world doesn't care about Thanksgiving, working for status, because I get things are moving and no one cares. Like, oh yeah, that y'all have that thing. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, rest of the world, we give you a nice friendly middle finger because Thanksgiving is the bomb and you should have one of your own. But I'm pretty sure they do. They just don't like.
Wait, most people that work at status aren't in the States?
No, there's like 3 of us that live in the States.
Oh, jeez.
Damn, so you're not even going to be able to have fun in July next year.
What?
Celebrating America's freedom.
I'll
with
do
a
that.
bunch of
What do
Aussies.
I'll do that. There's no reason I'm not going to do that.
Oh, yeah. But you can't, bond with anyone over it at your company.
Well, there's a lot of Americans that work for status. They just don't live in America.
Oh, okay. Y'all are on your James Bond shit. Okay, I get it. Okay. Well, we don't have any sponsors, right?
We do not. Hey, if you want to sponsor us, hit us up at sponsor@thebitcoinpodcast.com.
Yeah, the markets
are.
are
Or did you
ripe.
just make that up?
I just made that up, but I'll make it a thing by the time this airs.
Hopefully.
Maybe. Or you can try, and if that doesn't exist, then you'll never get an answer. But you can try.
Or just hit up the contact box on the website. The markets are very ripe for sponsorships. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we should talk about that a little bit. The prices is dropping significantly. I'm not going to say anyone predicted that or anything on several podcasts that he went on in the recent history, or anything, but maybe somebody did say that was going to happen.
And his name rhymes with Bometric.
Yeah, and his name rhymes with Bometric, but it starts with a D. Anywho, Cello, how you feeling over there? You feel like you're further away from your moon, Lambo?
No, I feel good, man. Like, crypto Twitter is so optimistic, though. It's like painfully bad because they're hurting, but they're trying to give you like words of wisdom and words of encouragement, the hang in there. And I was like, man, people don't need that. Get out of here.
We're definitely.
I already told you guys that crypto will not survive like a 2.5 year winter. So I hope it gets better.
Why don't you think so?
Well, I mean, the winters happen for like what, 2 months, and everything's doom and gloom. Imagine
we're definitely
2.5 years.
The trees are being shaken. That's for sure. We're seeing CEOs leave projects that we interviewed a couple of years ago, and just like they're like, I'm out.
You know, like when you watch the Oscars and they have the in memoriam of like the actors that have died that year. You could do that with CEOs in the space. Like they're just gone.
CEOs and CMOs. And
You're definitely seeing who got in for money and who got in for tech now.
There's nothing wrong with getting in for money.
No, not at all. But they're not going to stay.
They're not going to stay though. Yeah.
No,
D's microphone went to shit, so I'm not talking to him anymore.
But like, you know, very few people are going to get out of bed for something that they're truly passionate about and don't care about the money. I mean, if you didn't care about money, you would be retired. You know what I mean? So naturally, 99% of the CEOs in the space did it because they had the foresight to get in on this gold mine or the Wild West in the 2017s.
Or they just don't have money to continue operating. Like they can't. Like they would like to, but they literally can't afford to anymore.
It's a mixture of people that didn't know what the hell they were doing and people who can't afford to keep doing what they were doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So, I mean, if this continues for 2.5 years, I would declare crypto like dead in the water.
There's a reason why we keep chugging along all these years is because we have no overhead.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if we had operating costs, if we was it expensive to run this podcast, we wouldn't be around.
Yeah, we don't have Patreon,
money, but not a lot of money.
No, we have that. We have it covered.
Yeah, we could do one barbecue fundraiser and be set for years. Like, hey Corey, why don't you just go slow cook some brisket, and then we'll sell sandwiches at a grocery store. We'll be set for years.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. We can do a bake. What is that? A bake show. What's the things?
Yeah.
What are those called? Bake sale.
Bake sales. You had a hard time with that one.
I literally could. I had drank a lot last night.
But why did the Dallas Super Conference fold? Because I guarantee he could still charge, $50 an entry and still get people to come shill on the stage.
I think the exuberance for going to the kind of show that he was putting on is gone. Like, so people who are jumping in trying to figure out how to invest properly and that's from regular people who are going to pay $1,000 a ticket to go to a show and figure out how to put their money appropriately. That's gone. He wasn't building a developer conference or real knowledge from the majority of he was in it for money. That's all there is to it.
Well, let's talk about when do you think that would happen with DevCon? If we just kept talking about Web 3.1, 3.2, and sharding 2.0 and 3.0, but nothing ever gets released. Do you think people are going to be apprehensive to start going to DevCons and paying $1,000?
If nothing gets released, yeah. But the amount of change from last DevCon to this DevCon is ridiculously drastic in terms of how much things have moved and the amount of projects that have entered the space that are doing novel things. And
DevCon's gonna fuck around and become Burning Man.
Yeah, but when will people stop caring about how much things have moved, and when are things going to start getting released?
Things are being released. There's releases of Plasma. There's releases of the Beacon Chain has implementations and projects that are working on those types of things for F2.0. There's a lot of projects that have been released and are in the wild.
Yeah, the general sentiment of DevCon was happy. People like being there. So
I want to talk about the reason why the bear market is good is because it's a return to the ideologies that power this whole thing. It's good to make money, but you gotta understand, this stuff doesn't work. This stuff's not working because it's a great technology or it's a great this or that. It's working because it's a great idea. All of it. It's just a great idea. And ideas are very, very powerful things. And that's why people like DevCon, because it reestablishes these ideas that we can have a decentralized Facebook, whatever the fuck that even means. It's not being built, or it is being built, but we can have that, or we can own our data. Imagine if we could sell our own data as we start to become wiser to what kind of data points we're putting out there if we could sell our own. Like, those are grandiose ideas. And that's what powers all of this. And Bitcoin's a grandiose idea. But the thing about it is, like, when you're trying to change money, there's always going to be a small percentage of winners there than everyone else.
What do you mean?
Think about like my mic just went out. But
no, you're
came
good.
Back,
you're good. Yeah.
Think about the first people that were like, "Hey guys, we should use gold as money," and how many people gave them the middle finger. It was probably an unprecedented, overwhelming amount. They were like, "Look, we've got this seashell thing figured out pretty well. What the fuck are you doing with this gold, this shiny gold shit? Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, but no." And then like the millennia go by and people are like, "Look, this paper currency is going to be the shit, man. I'm telling you, like, gold is hard to move. We just got to use paper." I think it's a long process, but it's still a powerful idea. And getting a return to those ideas is important, because the further we get away from that and the more we strip away from that and bastardize it, the less of a chance any of this stands to work. So that's why I'm excited about the bear market. I know it's very cliche to be excited about a bear market and be in the Bitcoin. But
I don't know. My feelings on whether or not this stuff's going to work out haven't changed. I'm more excited about the technology and its implications. So the fact that the price is so low is kind of cool, because I want to throw more money into it for the future. Like, don't get me wrong. I would have liked, I wish I would have sold more when it was at the top so I could make drastic changes in my life immediately now. With
more hookers and blow.
Yeah, buddy.
Right?
But I mean, I've been in it for the long haul, right? Like, I'm here to see it change the world, not change my pocketbook over the next year. That's a side effect.
Our psyches are very interesting. We're like, I love how low it is when we're literally people that have seen it in the triple digits for the majority of the time we've been in this. And we're still saying, oh man, these prices are so low. So let's go out and get them Sunday. Go out and get your crypto. Yeah.
Thanksgiving sale.
Yeah. Go to your nearest expo center and buy some Bitcoins.
Well, I'm curious at like what is the sustainable price? Like, how low can it go for people to still use it? Bitcoin is different than Ethereum, but drastically in terms of price, in terms of usability. So there's no reason to use Bitcoin if it drops below a certain price for some things, right? You can't do, but you still can do multi-million dollar transfers for like basically nothing when the price goes so low, but it requires so much more Bitcoin. So if you got in early enough, or like if you got in this year, it's very, very difficult to think about buying a bunch of money now, because you think it might still keep going lower and you keep losing money, so you're not going to use it. Whereas like Ethereum is, more often than not, those who aren't just buying it and holding it for investment purposes are using it for various things. And that utility isn't going away. It's actually growing. You can still use it for a bunch of things. And if you want to maintain price, like if you want to maintain value, you just put it in DAI. DAI.
What about the Bitcoin Cash fork? That really
who gives a fuck?
Well, I've been seeing that like it's like legitimately dead. I don't follow Bitcoin Cash, but I've been seeing that it's like legitimately kind of dead in the water.
Well, the Craig Wright one is. Like, I'm pretty sure, I want to say he may have been ostracized completely from the ecosystem. He may have finally be gone. I really hope that's the case, but like.
Which is good. It's really good.
I'm curious to see what happens with Bitcoin Cash. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird moment in history. And a weird moment in people like Ryan X. Charles' history, too.
That guy was a kook. From when we first interviewed him in 2016.
They interviewed me for a job, right? I was going to work with them.
Yeah. You were the first user of yours.
I was. And probably the last.
First and last. That's right.
I really, really liked the idea of what they started to do. And then they just wholesale pivoted. I mean, I know why they pivoted is because they got funding to pivot, and they capitulated to that funding.
Yeah.
But I mean,
yeah,
there's other people who picked up the mantle of what they initially started to do, and that's who I like people like Sint.
Ryan X. Charles strikes me as a guy who like curates hentai. Like, you know what I mean? like you.
Well, I remember
you go over to his crib and he's like a hentai connoisseur. Giant box of glowing porn.
Well, I remember talking to him and him. I mean, like, what's the point? He's like, to get filthy rich. I was like, that's not the point.
That should never be the point of it. I mean, sometimes it's people's point.
It should be a side effect of doing something useful.
Yeah. I wish that were always the case, but it's not.
No, it's not. There's a lot of people who do things for the sole purpose of making money. That's it. It's the only reason they're doing anything.
Yep.
And
this ecosystem would be drastically smaller, though, if there weren't promises of Lambos. Let's be real. I
mean, this ecosystem is honestly still very small. It's those people are trying to come in and drain it of its juice.
That's always going to be the allure of it. Nobody's going to come in for sharding. They're going to come in for the promises of riches. Yeah. And when that goes away, then the ecosystem will level off and stabilize.
Well, there's going to be investors who are making bets on the usability of how all this works and the impact it's going to have for the end users. But I think like the actual end users won't care because they don't see it. They're just doing something. They're just using an app. And like you're starting to see, I think, projects now, it's like the thing of like they didn't get into blockchain for the money. They're using it for the tech. And you don't even see it when you use their app, right? And that's their marketing campaign is we're doing this. And we're doing it right. And you don't even see that we're using blockchain. It's just necessary.
You don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
Yeah, so you know I don't know if you heard the Shark Tank interview we did with Bundle, which is basically like the lawnmower app. So I guess one of the marketing employees isn't like, hey, you can invest your spare change in crypto. It's, hey, you can buy a new pair of J's if you buy enough Starbucks coffee. And you have enough Bitcoin, and you can cash that Bitcoin in and reward yourself with a new surfboard. So, like, even the marketing isn't like, hey, you can get in crypto. It's you can get like these Chuck E. Cheese tokens, and if you get enough of it, you can cash it in and get this prize.
Go ahead.
I think that's a dumb enough route to get towards mass adoption because people don't. Like you said in the past, like even my own brother, very smart man, whole family, smart as shit. But he didn't get Bitcoin was a thing until I bought something with it. And he was like, how'd you get that? And I was like, oh, I bought it with Bitcoin. He was like, oh, you can, so it's real? It's not fake money? And I was like, no, it's real. And I bought this with it. He's like, oh, that's different. And I think he, knowing him, literally said, like, I can get some J's with that. And I was like, yeah, you can actually. And so that's something that people need to see. They need to see that.
But you can get some J's by buying 0.1 Bitcoin. Wait 2 years, and then you can buy 10 J's. That's the allure.
So that's the allure of just buying it and not passively getting it, like something like Bundle, right? Yeah, like the allure of just buying it and not using it is that you can sell it for a lot more later. Ironically, you're still thinking in dollars. And the goal of Bitcoin is to move away from that. At least the original ideological vehicle of Bitcoin was to move away from centrally backed currencies.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at the lawnmower team, that wasn't their route. They were just like, hey, we want more people to get into crypto, so here's this Acorn app.
This is how you easily get into crypto. This like their allure wasn't, this is how you easily passively buy things you didn't realize you could afford.
Yeah.
Mm. But I mean, as far as pushing this as something that everyday use, like it's only going to be a small population of people that benefit from that ubiquitous nature that everybody's talking about.
What?
It's not going to be a lot of people that benefit if Bitcoin ever does become a spend every day, everybody's using this kind of currency. And it has that much purchasing power, there's not a lot of people that are going to get super ultra wealthy from it. I think bear markets and stuff like this rule that out. There's not a lot of people that can ride those waves. There's not a lot of people that are staying in touch. There's a lot more people that are like, screw it, I'm selling it. Or at the top, they sold and got out and are set for life. Like every single time we get one of these cycles, it lessens the percent of people that I think are going to get super ultra wealthy and maintain a super large.
Yeah, I agree. As time goes on, the amount of people that will get ultra wealthy gets smaller. It's diminishing because it's just later on in the tech, or like further along the adoption curve.
Yes, and so I mean that's why I'm excited to be in as early as I am now.
I think the bear market now, based on how I still feel the like tech can go, makes me excited that there is still a chance that there can be another massive bull run because it's so low right now. So if you still kind of, if you believe in the tech, have a chance to buy in and potentially make a bunch of money if it goes to where we think it can go, or it could literally crash and burn. Like Bitcoin could not exist in the future sometime.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if people say we're so early, that insinuates that the all-time high hasn't even been touched yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's that's like.
But you're not sure of it.
I'm not sure it's going to be called Bitcoin.
Well, you're not even sure about Ethereum all-time high.
Oh, I mean, I think it's going to go much higher than it is now.
Well, yeah, but will it reach 2,000? Will it reach 3,000, 4,000?
I don't see why it should. I'm really curious on how the economics work out for Eth 2.0, and I think everyone else is.
Well, I heard that they're going to put a cap on Ethereum soon.
No, I think those decisions haven't been made yet, and that those could drive prices up because this actually becomes more of a scarce thing, and so you have to move it around. Then it becomes a zero-sum game almost of, in order to get Ethereum, you have to take it from someone else.
Yeah, the only way I disagree with Corey is that I don't think that it could be something else. I think it has to be what it is now. And eventually we have to put some anchors in the ground and we have to say, this is it. This is what it is. And this is what we're going to work with. Like, so what Joe said in Slack earlier this week, and he was like, I don't think Bitcoin needs to change. I think it needs to just be, these are the rules that we work with, and that's it. And sometimes that's how life is. And we need to find a way to make it better with what we have, whether that's side chains, whether that's the Lightning Network, whether that's sharding. I don't know what it is, but Bitcoin is the root. It's the foundation. That's what we get.
I think it's old tech. I think it's not. It was the first implementation of something new and novel, and we've learned a lot since its creation. And there's no reason to not upgrade it with our new knowledge of how things should work or can work.
Yeah, I mean that's very true. However, we're not talking about like building a new web browser here or building an like we're talking about like
we literally are. We're talking about building a new web and then the browsers that access it. That's literally what we're talking about.
I'm talking about the money aspect.
Well, that's part of it, right? That's the novelty, is that scarcity, which can be money, is intrinsically a part of this new web. We're building that, and there's new ways to do it, and we're still learning it, and there's no reason to say, well, first implementation, that's all we get. We don't get to try and make it any better. That's fucking stupid.
There are reasons to say that, though, because when you're talking about monetary policy, when you're talking about decisions that affect millions, scratch that. Let me scratch that out. Put a B on it. Billions of people's lives for decades at a time, you don't change things.
Okay, I can see like an ossification of a protocol.
You keep them the same so people can build lives, so people can build families. And if Bitcoin is what it is right now, and if we can build offshoots that can add capacity and add all this functionality, like the Lightning Network, like side chains, then we need to work on that and set Bitcoin constant. Bitcoin is what it is.
Bitcoin needs to be set in a way that can be built on, and it's difficult to do so.
Maybe that's the thing, everyone. Maybe that needs to be the next discussion we have. And then ultimately create a fork, and we'll call it Bitcoin Cash PQR, or whatever fucking acronyms they're gonna make the next day.
Or you just have multiple networks. Like the things that I'm talking about, like the type of innovation and technology movement that I'm talking about is more appropriate for Ethereum. And so that could be separate to what Bitcoin is. And I'm still fine with a multi-chain world where we have different chains for different purposes. Bitcoin can be money and stay ossified so that you can have regulation and, confidence and, like some kind of guarantee around it not changing when you get some money into it and hold it there. It could, in order for it to be a storage of value, it needs to be at least semi-constant over time, or or you should be able to make predictions based on what it's going to happen in the future, or like some type of semblance of guarantees around that type of thing. If you don't have that, then it can never be a storage of value ever. Yeah. And if you want to have a world money, there needs to be some type of storage of value.
Ossified. It's a good word.
That means
that's something like X-Men villain would say.
Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, that's something Mr. Sinister would say. Anyways,
interview time.
Good discussion. Yeah, I think it is a time for that.
All right. Long time coming. Shark CEO of Civic, Mr. Vinny Lingham.
Here it is.
Hey guys, this week we are here with Vinny Lingham, an internet entrepreneur who is the co-founder and CEO of Civic, an identity protection and management startup. Of course, he's one of the prominent figures in the space, and we realized he hasn't been on the show before, so we were just checking this off our podcast bucket list. Vinny, thank you, sir, for being here.
Well, my pleasure. Glad to be on someone's bucket list.
Yeah. For those that kind of don't know who you are, how about a very quick overview of your claim to fame in the space and kind of what you're currently building out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like one of the OGs, old school gangsters, been in the Bitcoin space since late 2012, early 2013. I think claim to fame would be I started Gyft, which was at one stage the biggest gift card platform out there obviously Bitcoin was the primary payment method. So we enabled Bitcoin users back in the days of 2013 to spend their Bitcoins at, 55,000 physical stores in the US. So it was quite a big deal. Gathered a lot of major market data from that. So for me, it was more about, I would say, like what are the use cases for Bitcoin? What are the use cases for this new transactional currency as a way of bridging for me it was like a bridge to online payments, right? Instead of using credit cards and all the other payment methods that are wrought with fraud and putting the onus of fraud protection on the merchants. What you wind up doing with Bitcoin is you wind up, making a bearer sort of item, a bearer bond. And so whoever has the coins, has the money. And so you can't have a situation where you have online fraud and because there's no chargebacks, etc. So that was the angle we took with Bitcoin and how we could use it as a retailer. It did very well. I worked with BitPay and a couple other people in the space back then to try and get more merchant adoption. And I think it was growing very well. And, eventually, Bitcoin was used everywhere, but then we hit the block size limit. We had the big debate last year, and that's kind of where I sort of disagree with the long-term view and vision of where Bitcoin is going in terms of not being a transactional currency, but a store of value, which hasn't really played out well in the past year. But we can probably discuss that in detail later on.
Yeah, I mean, up front, this podcast, we barely talk about the price. We barely talk about the markets in general, but you're a very informed person. You're a wise business pioneer of the technology. What are your thoughts overview of this bear market in Q4 2018? Is it strengthening the survivors? Is there nothing to worry about if we just look at the patterns of the past? I mean, this is a critical point. So is it good, bad? What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I mean, I'm obviously a partner at Multicoin Capital. It's one of the bigger crypto hedge funds, and so I have a lot of data and insight from the market, from the team there. And I can tell you now from my and I won't speak on behalf of Multicoin personally. I've been saying this for a year. The bigger the party, the bigger the hangover. And we had a big party last year. We had the price of Bitcoin rising for no real reason other than just pure speculation, and there's no real utility. We have a block size limit, so the transactions are capped, and so it's a weird situation where people want the price to go up just because it goes up, and there's this delusional sort of store of value hypothesis which everyone has to buy into. Now, it may be true in the long term, but in the short term, I just don't buy it, and that's just me. I personally don't buy it. I think it's just we're fooling ourselves to believe that technology doesn't have to have a use case other than hodling. But if the community wants to believe that, people are free to believe whatever they want to believe. Unfortunately, gravity and economics will always weigh in at the end of the day. So I don't think the bear market is. Like I said about a month ago, this is just the start of crypto winter. Like this is the fall. Okay, winter hasn't begun yet.
I've been saying this for quite a while, and in terms of like the majority of the price rise recently was due to pure speculation and a lack of utility. And since we didn't have that utility, the volatility of all of this was just running rampant. It was all built on irrational exuberance. And I don't really see anything happening for a long period of time until we build the utility. But what that utility is, what we call it, what it looks like, I'm not quite sure. Do you have any insight as to what like the use cases or the utility will be in the future? Is it just going to be pure money? Is it going to be a bunch of other things?
Well, the thing is this: the utility that they've, for this podcast, I think the user, the listeners should actually keep in account the following: that the reason, I suppose, myself especially, the reason I and many others fought about utility was that you can't have a situation where this currency, so to speak, has been used as a store of value and no one's actually using it, because then you rely on people and markets to form around it, and those markets don't need to be liquid at all, which is the problem we have right now. So when you have excess sellers in the market, there's no one to hold the price up. So this is the issue. Hodling doesn't get new people to buy in, because what happens is the people who bought in early benefit from the price rise, and people who get in late get the pain of buying at 20,000. Now it's down at 5. And if you look at the transaction volume of Bitcoin, it's dropped, right? And because of this limit, this artificial limit on block size on transactions. Now, we can argue SegWit opens it up, but SegWit's taken time to be adopted. It just slowed down the whole industry. I mean, merchants stopped using Bitcoin. The fees spiked to $50 a transaction. And look, again, I'm not going to pass judgment. Like the community's view at this point was, it's a store of value. It's not a transactional currency. Let's not try to use it to buy coffees. And so, be that as it may, that's the view, then that's fine. So we shouldn't use it for coffees or gift cards or small volume transactions, which is what Gyft is doing. And so let's see what happens. And I think the experiment so far has been, it's been true to form, is that, if people stop using Bitcoin, where's the demand to buy it going to come from? You can't expect everyone to have the delusional belief that a store of value comes from something that you hold.
I mean, some people say it's Bitcoin is old, that the technology is old, and that it's quite limited in its use case, and so money isn't good enough.
No, but it's good. No, Bitcoin's great. Like the technology around Bitcoin it might be old, but it's still rock solid. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Bitcoin technology. It's better payment. It's a better payment rails than anything else I've seen so far. It's better than Ethereum, better than anything, and it really is solid. The problem is you just cannot have this transactional cap, and so the view that we have to centralize Bitcoin to the nth degree, and 7 billion people need to be able to run nodes in the world, is kind of ridiculous. And that's really what's being asked of the community, is like everyone should go run a node. 1 megabyte is a joke, right? Like your photographs on your iPhone are 25 megs a piece at least. So 1 megabyte blocks. Even if we went up to 2 to 4 to 8, like the centralization there could be 1 or 2%. So it's not major centralization. There's still enough nodes and enough miners out there that you wouldn't have a centralized coin. I mean, it's way, Bitcoin is obviously very, very decentralization focused, but to what ends, right? And so if you start hampering look, what's done is done, and now we pay the price of whether or not the HODL forever strategy is going to work, and whether this has become a store of value. So, like, I'm not going to go around beating the bush and saying, well, we should change things. It's too late now. It's like, it's done. Let's see how things play out.
No, well, I wholly agree with the fact that like 1 megabyte's ridiculous. Moving it up is a good path forward. But we've seen that it's quite difficult to get things done at the infrastructure level of the protocol level of Bitcoin. How do you move forward with that? Like, do you see that difficulty changing? I mean, yeah, we took a lot of that left when we had the Bitcoin BCH fork. But it's still difficult to get things done, even with the people who left over in Bitcoin and the, I guess, more unified mindshare associated with Bitcoin. How do you move forward with that?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's possible to move forward, and that's why the community split. I mean, I was hoping we didn't split. I was hoping we all stuck to one coin, and my whole, like, I think the position I took last year is when we couldn't agree, let's just keep the status quo. Let's not activate SegWit. This is whatever. But then, things got out of control, and now we have 2 or 3 coins now. And I mean, guys, it is what it is. But I just can't see how the thesis behind this the store value hypothesis for me is bullshit unless it's built upon transactional usage. So I believe it works if there's transactions to govern it. Otherwise, I don't get it. Like, why would we just hodl and never mine and never do transactions? Like, it's just weird. It's weird. It's weird for me to talk about it. I just don't understand it. Maybe it's just beyond me, and that's fine.
I think the only value with store value is if the infrastructure is built to offload it into things that are useful, and so you need that utility in order to move it around or make it or turn the value into something else if you're storing it somewhere else. So, like, it's not one without the other. You can't just have store value by itself. It needs to move into something, and the infrastructure needs to be there, then everyone using it so that they're moving it from a storage of value elsewhere. If it's just a storage of value and no one's using it, then it's not value, if that makes any sense. But how do you build that infrastructure? That's a chicken or the egg kind of problem. Do you just build the utility and the value comes with it?
Well, the infrastructure was there. We had, all the major merchants in the world using Bitcoin. We had, it was like 100,000 merchants. People were using it every single day. It was great. And then the fee skyrocketed and it scared the crap out of people. So no one wants to take a chance on using Bitcoin as a way to send money around the world cheaply in super cheap transactions. Now, do I think Bitcoin Cash is going to be the winner in the space? I don't know. I mean, I can't say. Bitcoin Cash has got so many other issues. It's not worth going into it right now. And the conflicts there are great. But if it resolves itself and there's one sort of there's a competitive Bitcoin, which is transaction. Look, I think that for me, if you want money, global money, it needs to be cheap transactions and it needs to be high volume and very liquid so people can get into and out of it easily. And Bitcoin is definitely liquid, but the transactions are not cheap. And they are cheap right now, but they're not reliably cheap. So you can't bank on them being cheap in the future. So trying to disrupt Visa, MasterCard, Amex isn't really going to happen with Bitcoin at the moment, not with the current sort of mindset behind it. And Lightning was supposed to be ready in 18 months. It's been 18 months. Where's Lightning? It's not ready.
That's true. And then there's also something that's people have been clamoring about, which is like the ETF stuff. And Switzerland finally greenlit the world's first ETF to be listed next week. Maybe this might encourage the SEC to allow an American ETF. I mean, when I think about the USA, if they want to be left behind, I don't know, leave them, right? I mean, they can have all their regulations and shove them down the throats of their own people, but the rest of the world's moving forward, not backwards. And I feel like the majority of us might pretend like we don't have a problem. We just continue to work with the banks or glorify projects that do. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, the ETF thing, I've been bearish on ETFs for nearly 2 years now. First of all, there's no way that ETFs can be approved while there's an investigation into price fixing for Bitcoin. I mean, that's just crazy. The government's not going to approve that. So the crypto ETFs are not going to happen anytime soon for the US. It might have, I mean, Switzerland's approved it. That's great. Good on them. But the US is going to be pretty conservative in approving an ETF because the moment moms and pops want to get exposed to this stuff, it's a risk. Now, look at the price of Bitcoin. Look at the fluctuations in 1 year. Look at the gyrations. You really think that a government agency is going to approve this? Maybe, but I seriously doubt it.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. In fact, Corey, I don't even think we really talk about ETFs that much, but yeah, I have to say we're ways off. But another thing, at the top of the interview, you said you were a Bitcoin OG. You're one of the pioneers on how to do an ICO the right way. Now, these things are tricky because there's no marketing blueprints, there's no roadmap for successful ICO at the time. How did you utilize your expertise and knowledge to make sure that you didn't offer discounts, that you didn't go off the rails? Kind of walk us through this, because when the next waves of ICO happens, if it happens, perhaps it won't be a circus this time around.
Yeah. So, if I look at what we did, I mean, first of all, no advertising, not a single ad, not a single, we did no advertising at all. And then we looked at, how do investment banks sell securities? And we did exactly the opposite. So the way investment banks sell securities is they offer discount prices or premium prices to their best customers. They, you can buy as much as you want. It's kind of they have a very small. It's normally a very small group that gets disproportionately, benefit disproportionately from any sort of sale. And our view was, this is just not how we want to do it. We're going to do it very differently. We're going to make it available to the masses. At the time, it was the biggest token sale of all time. 10,000 people were buying into it. So we just, I wrote a blog post about it, all the details, but it was kind of like an auction. It was unlike an auction method where, we basically set a price and we distributed it as fairly as possible to as many people as possible.
Okay, I'll definitely share that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Corey, you have anything to add on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of distribution analysis of early ICOs to see like where the money was going, and although or at least the early ICOs and a lot of the later ones massively increased the inclusion of who could contribute to these types of things, the actual influence of the contributors was still limited to a small subset of people. Did you see the same thing? Like it's like the majority of the tokens was going to a small number of people, and so although people were being included, they didn't really have much of a say in the like traditional way of like distribution analysis. Do you have anything? Did you experience the same thing? And did you set out to change that, or just it's a consequence of how money flows?
No, we want to make sure that as many people as possible can benefit from it. So as they benefit from it, they can get access to it. Like there were a ton of people on the day in our queue. There were 50,000 people trying to buy these tokens. And I think, remember, there was no preferential benefits to anyone. So not our like shareholders, like people of the company, no one could benefit from this. This was very much as fairly as it was done. Look, there was no guidebook. There was no how should I say? There were no rules around this at the time. So for us, it was really about how do we do it as fairly as possible, given the lack of information we have on how to do this.
And now that you have all these shareholders, or not even shareholders, people who hold tokens, the majority of people who hold tokens are doing so for hopeful benefits of profits later on, and they don't really have a say in how that money gets used. And so you have all of these very, very cash-rich projects without the guidance of VCs and early-stage investors to help them go through and do things reasonably and to evaluate the things that they're doing to make sure they're good. Like, how do you see all of these ICOs that are very cash-rich moving forward when they don't have anybody to be beholden to? They don't have to answer consequences on something. They don't have someone to help them build a solid business if they have good tech. Like, I'm seeing this as a very big issue right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are consequences. Like for us, it was we want to make sure that we did this token. So we actually paid our taxes, by the way. So we paid taxes on our token sale, which is very much unlike every other ICO we've seen. We declared it as income. We paid taxes to the IRS for it. So it was very much was not. If you don't pay taxes, you can't say it's not a security. In my opinion, like if it's a security, then you don't pay taxes. When you take investment from an investor, you don't pay taxes. When you sell something and you pay income taxes, it's then like our position. We spoke to our lawyers, and our position was that this is a software license that we're selling, and therefore we're not going to we're going to pay our income taxes on it. And I think there's only one other ICO that I know of that actually had that approach.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And they took it from us. One of the CEOs, and he agreed, and he said, "You know what? That's probably the right way to do it." Well, so there's lots of nuances that I can go through, but we did so many things that we think was in the best interest of, like, because there was no guidance on how to do this and no one knew better. We figured, well, let's just do it, in the nicest, cleanest way we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's an approach that I think a lot of people respect, because I mean, nobody knows how to do this. I think they might look back at your ICO as like the building blocks and how to do it right. So take my hat off to you. I know we're a little bit pressed for time, so I have to ask you about security. Corey here is a security engineer. I recently got hacked and I lost my Google account. And how big is Google, right? I had a hard time recovering an email that I've had for 15 years. And then it kind of dawned on me, like, how do I verify who I am? How do I prove who I say I am? As I'm going through the process of verifications, I realize that even though I've had this email for 15 years, like, Google doesn't know me. They don't know my face. They don't know the name of my kids. They don't know my likes and dislikes. Like, this has to be a fundamental flaw in security. And like Corey was telling me, like, oh, just use YubiKeys and two-factor authentication. That's really all you can do. But like, why can't there be like a human element to security? Why doesn't trust scale that well?
Well, I mean, Dunbar did research on this, a social scientist, and he found that you only trust up to 150 people, like in your life, like around you. So if you trust, it doesn't scale. People can't build meaningful relationships past 150 people, and so the trust that Google puts in, like, it depends on how much do you trust Google to keep your information safe, and how much of your personal information you're willing to give to them. And look, and this is not a Google. I mean, I think all the big companies right now, with the exception of Apple, I think Apple does a pretty good job overall, and they don't really have an advertising model, so they don't really care about owning your data. They want to give you the tools to make the right decisions and whatnot. So I think I'm more complimentary on Apple. The other companies in the space, quite frankly, they have whether they want to argue with it or not, they have conflicts of interest. It's as simple as that. Like, you can argue they don't, but they do. And they can argue they don't, but they do. And so, like, the willingness to fix the problem just isn't there. Like, economic benefit for them to fix the problem isn't there. So why would they?
Isn't that the whole point of building these types of systems, these trustless systems? Is because if we're fundamentally limited to only maybe trusting a certain amount of people, building trustless systems helps us scale how we interact with the world and scale out that trust. I mean, Bitcoin is a trustless system, and it's the first one that allowed you to stop offloading that trust to humans and start offloading that trust to a system of rules and math. And as we figure out how to do that better, we can then scale out better. Isn't that kind of the point? That's how I see it.
Oh, we agree, but remember, we're talking about there's two parts of the equation. One is the old guard and what do they want, and then it's the new guard. So yeah, what we're trying to do is, like, in some respects, we're trying to build the new establishment in crypto. We want the new establishment to take over old ones, but the old ones have got such critical mass that, this is where, like, the real question is, can we get does antitrust come into play at some point in the way that your data is out there and controlled by a few big monopolies of this data? Does antitrust play a role? I don't know. I mean, there's obviously talk about that right now. Can crypto solve the problem? Absolutely. The tools to solve these problems are there. The economic benefits for these companies to actually make the leap forward is just not there. They don't want you to control your data. Like, it's just not a good business for them to be in, where they don't have access to data and they can't profile and give you better advertising and make more money. It's just, why would they? Am I making sense? Like,
well, I think it's daunting for us because Bitcoin's been around for 10 years now, and the issue of user identity being leaked and sold hasn't been solved yet. And I think everybody just thought it would be.
Well, it's just it's that old guard, right? We're fighting to gain mind share and use of people who don't want to give that up.
Look, let's talk about Bitcoin for a second. The priority with Bitcoin has been the censorship-resistant money and not the store of value. The store of value hypothesis and not anything else, really. So, guess what? The engineering efforts are going to be pushed towards that angle. Like, that's what people are going to be using Bitcoin for in the future. So Bitcoin can't be expected to solve that problem. So that it's something else in crypto needs to solve that problem.
Yeah, that's true. Corey, you want to hit him with the 10 words? I know we're approaching the 30-minute mark here.
Yeah, sure. But thanks for coming and joining us.
Yes,
a bit of your time. I know you're busy. We have one more question for you, which is something we ask all of our guests in some form or variation. We're kind of changing it up on you because we know you are a Bitcoin IG, and I think people can definitely look you up and figure out your sentiments towards how you feel about Bitcoin. So, in 10 words or less, can you describe Ethereum?
A multi-purpose, smart contracting platform exploring alternative crypto strategies. I don't know how many words is that.
I have to get my hats off because you actually tried to do less than 10 words. More often than not, people just go on.
Ethereum, if we just go back to history, Vitalik wanted to build it on Bitcoin. He couldn't get the opcodes enabled for it, so he built Ethereum. And I think some of the features and functionality in Ethereum is definitely stuff that Bitcoin itself can't do. So it's a very useful tool out there, and it's enabled loads of new innovation. And I was always bearish on Ethereum, but I was bearish on Ethereum for replacing money and payments. And I still think Ethereum sucks for payments, so I'm not going to retract that. I think it's the worst payments. It's worse than Bitcoin by far for payments. But for things like smart contracting and like ERC20 tokens and stuff like that, that functionality is just not being made a priority on Bitcoin. So it has to go somewhere. The world needs this sort of technology. So Ethereum is a good contender, but it may not be the only one. Or it isn't the only one.
Well, that's always things that we could talk about the next time you come by. We really appreciate you making time for us, and shout out to your team for mediating this whole process. We're big fans of you guys, and thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right.
And that was the interview with Vinny Lingham.
That was a short one. It's a short one, and he talks very fast. I found myself, also apologize for the sound. I was on Thanksgiving holiday, kind of in a family emergency situation in a place that was loud, so it was difficult. But he talks fast, and then I found myself like matching his pace and talking fast, and like there's no time to think in a situation like that. You're just talking. So like the conversation we're having now, I don't feel is a conversation you can have with a person like Vinny Lingham.
No, you can't. Go ahead, Cello.
He's always used to, when he talks about crypto, he's always used to being on a stage and then having an allotted time.
Or having like a very defensive stance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find executives in most situations are kind of like rappers. Like why I'm making that connection is because if you ever look at rappers, they're quote unquote freestyling. Like whenever you see them, like this is a so-and-so freestyle, but it's like those aren't freestyles.
No, they made that shit up for freestyling time.
Yeah, those are rhymes that they've made up and they've kept memorized in their little rhyme library in their head.
Well, they also they have
from it.
They have like bits and pieces that they can put in various circumstances, but they always have, their ability to bring in the immediate surroundings makes it more of a freestyle, right? They'll start talking about, give me say pencil, and they bring that into the rhyme and make it creative. Then they're freestyling, but most of the shit that they're saying is just like stuff they have stored in their head for freestyle time.
Yes, that, and the better rhymers can freestyle about more things. But I think like certain cadences and certain analogies and stuff, they just have those. Just because the only reason I could think about this is because a lot of jazz musicians do that. They memorize certain progressions and then they only expand on those progressions that they know. So like they're like, all right, that chord works. I'm going to see how many different chords how that progression works. I'm going to see how many different chords that works with, and I'm going to just change the rhythm a little bit. I'm going to change the
microphone went out. Oh, it's back.
Yeah. But I don't know.
Unless you're Black Thought, that 9-minute free. Nobody saw that.
Well, let's get back to Vinny.
Yeah, let's get sorry for but I think most CEOs do that. They just they have responses memorized in their head, and they just find 1,000 different ways to say the same response.
Well, they have their core belief. They have their belief systems, and it's not going to change. You know what I mean? They're not going to.
It should, though. It should. That's the thing. It's like when you have conversations with people, it's a way to see someone else's perspective and expand your viewpoint so that you can assimilate it into how you view the world and have a better viewpoint of the world.
I mean, if I'm promoting a movie and I go to Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and Seth Meyers, it's all going to be the same interview, just wrapped up differently.
Right. You're trying to put out a message. And if you have a certain brand or message you want to put out, then that messaging typically stays the same. But if you're being a human and having a conversation with somebody, that's not how you operate.
Yeah. I recently was given a new perspective on bullying. Changed my mind on it. I used to think kids that are being bullied and complain about it nowadays are just a little bit more bitch made than kids were than we were when we were kids. But then somebody told me, they were like, okay, when we were kids, you had a bully. I still remember the guy's name. His name's Corey Summers. He was an ass.
Good name.
But it was a bully, right? So one time a day, you had to confront the bully, and either you were going to win or he was going to win, whatever. But nowadays, because of cyberbullying, one time a day, it's not one time a day. It's tens of thousands of bullies any time of the day that could just destroy your psyche at a time in your life when your psyche is dependent upon your social circle. So, yeah, now I'm like, yeah, bullying's bad. That could really hurt humans a lot. If, you get on the line and 30,000 people are calling you a piece of shit, and you're like, oh, wow, 30,000 people.
You're a piece of shit for saying on the line.
Get on the line.
Yeah.
That's how you say it.
I'm going to give you a quality dose of cyberbullying so you never say that again.
Can you guys cyberbully me into a point where I never say that again? Yeah. I'm not bitch made, so I can handle it.
There's a Reddit thread called like Roast Me, where you post a picture of yourself and then the internet just roasts you.
Ooh, I kind of want to do that.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
I'm at least going to go watch it. So we were talking about kind of something along this line. Not really. It's more like the Vinny Lingham line earlier. During the break, during our 5-minute break between the front round table and the back round table, and that is like who you were having this conversation about, like the top 10 artists, and we were trying to make that analogy to Bitcoin or the crypto space. Go ahead and explain to people what you're talking about.
Yeah, so if you take like, Laura Shin and the A-Pomps and, the loud mainstream voices of media and journalism in the space, it doesn't equate to quality content.
I don't know if you can throw Laura Shin in there. I think she has quality content.
I've never listened to her show. So I don't know.
She has really good content.
Maybe so, but I've never... Does she warrant the success that she has? Who knows?
Yeah.
That's always subjective. So Forbes came out with the list of highest paid women in music. You have Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Pink, Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Jennifer Lopez, the usual suspects. You don't even need to read the list, But if I tell you, are those the best musicianship in the world? Probably not. They're machines. Katy Perry has a writer, makeup artist, a dance choreographer, producers that make her music, and she's just the face. She's the machine, and she pumps it out. And that's how I view these people. That's how I view A-Pomp. Someone writes his tweets. Someone feeds him thoughts. Someone produces his podcast and creates his artwork. And I mean, he's good, but
like I was saying this thing, like, there needs to be somebody who just constantly relays information, and they're not doing. There needs to. I'm not saying these are those people, but there needs to be people that exist. There always will be people that exist that just relay information that's already been said. They're not doing anything novel, because new people need to come in and learn the same things that the people who have already been in already know. Mm-hmm. And so in order for them to do that, there needs to be avenues in which they do it, because they can't always find the old stuff that we used to understand it, or there's a better way of doing it. And so the craft is shaping information to new users in ways that are better than the ways that already existed. And they're the ones that go on talk shows and say the same shit that everyone in the space already knows. And so like you're saying, like, they're not doing anything novel or really thinking for themselves or pushing the boundaries. They're just relaying information, and those people will always exist. So who is it? But who is it in the space? Like, I mean,
and how easy it is to find their show. If I'm trying to find a crypto podcast and I'm going in cold, I'm going in blind, I'm gonna find Unchained, probably. In fact, I was telling you, when we were flying back from Prague, and I shit you not, there was a little infotainment on our back seat, and there was a podcast section, and Unchained was one of the 6 podcasts that you could listen to on this infotainment on our airplane, which is crazy. So it's not about better content; it's about accessible. And Katy Perry's music is way more accessible than the indie musician who plays at the local bars down the street.
You're right. And so, but I'd say now, although we set out to be the entry point of crypto for podcasts, we're not that. Like, people who like us understand the space pretty well. We give color commentary on shit people understand. And we like bring new ideas, but at a level that requires some initial knowledge. Like, my family listens to me and they stop listening because they don't understand what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, we failed to become the entry point for people in crypto, because we don't explain new concepts ever, or re-explain the concepts ever. Like, if someone were to say, like, how do I learn about Bitcoin? I'm not pointing them to my show. If someone says, like, how do I stay entertained in the crypto space, I point them to our show.
Yeah.
Or like, how do I do, like, massive deep dives in audible form? All right, go to Hashing It Out. That's a good place to learn about how the tech actually works. But if someone were new, guess what I'm not pointing them to?
Well, I don't want to take episode 2 and bring it into 2018 and regurgitate the same information.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. People that needs to exist. People need to continuously keep saying that type of stuff.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it because it's boring as all hell.
It's basically like being a professor, but like not getting paid.
Yeah, every year.
That's pretty much what it's like. It's like, here's this fucking curriculum that I've built up that I got to repeat all the time, and I got to make sure people understand all the time. But I'm doing it.
I'm going to ask the same questions over. Andreas said that, right? He's like, there's a continuous loop. Yeah.
That's got to be kind of Groundhog Day. That's got to be kind of. I think I'd lose my shit. I've
explained this so many times, and you're a new human. So, like, you need either to have like this incredibly strong ideological vehicle that motivates you to keep driving around in circles.
Yeah.
In order to do something like that, or you're getting paid. That's the only two reasons to do it.
Motivates you to keep driving in circles. I just imagine somebody going hard in the paint doing donuts in the parking lot forever.
I love that shit.
Like the whole community knows who he is now. Like, oh, that's Dale. He does donuts in the parking lot. But you ever want to learn how to do donuts? Yeah, you ever want to learn how to do donuts in the parking lot? Go over that.
Dale is your man.
I'll show you.
Well, that's how I felt about Andreas. Like, he didn't get paid until that large donation, but up until that point, he still had that 6-month revolving door of new people. How was he able to A, sustain himself, B, come out with new products and videos instead of his content just getting regurgitated on syndication?
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, he still has an incredibly strong motivational vehicle to drive him through that when he wasn't getting paid for so long. And don't get me wrong, he was living on Bitcoin. He was traveling, getting paid for his talks. But it wasn't a lot. And a lot of his wealth came from the price rise. But now that it's down, I mean, who knows how? Like, that $1 million that he made probably ain't $1 million anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mine ain't. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think Dave Carlson's up to nowadays? Now that Gigawatt is done,
I don't know. There's so many people that are just like twiddling their thumbs and be like, "Man, that was dumb."
Some people are trying to outright disappear. I guarantee you that. Like, there's going to be some people that we heard of. Maybe that could be like a little mini book we do one day. Like, hey, whatever happened to, or like you see those articles on the internet sometimes. Like, did you ever wonder what happened to the guy with the glasses from The Sandlot? You're like, no, I didn't. But now that you mention it,
I kind of want to know where he is now.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he owns a food truck? Weird.
Yeah, I was like, if Richard Jacobs isn't talking about crypto anymore, then what is he doing? So I went to his podcast, and he's talking about farming and cancer research and geodes and all this weird shit. And I'm like, oh, is he trying to find like another audience to throw a conference for that doesn't understand the concept but really, really, really rationally exuberant about it? Well, the name of the podcast was Future Tech Podcast. So he figured if he pivoted, he could still keep the name of his podcast and still talk about future tech.
Or maybe he's just genuinely interested in the things that people are hype about and wants to figure out why.
Well, before it was 100% crypto.
Yeah,
it was 100% crypto, so he could write that book. Remember?
Yeah.
So yeah, you have Dave Carlson, you have that guy, Juan Chain, founder and president. He's gone. Your former employers, I'm not going to blast them out, but
gone.
They're disbanded. Gone.
Gone.
Algebraics, who I work for, they don't know what they're doing. They're going to be gone soon. Yeah. The only reason why they're not gone is because the old CEO has a lot of capital, but he's going to be homeless soon, and his wife won't be happy.
Ouch.
If I had one of those little mixer things, this is where I would push the button and it would play Another One Bites the Dust.
Yeah.
And we would do that. Yeah. Or the Price is Right sad music.
I'm gonna find a way to bring a mixer into this.
Yeah. So the book that we're publishing though already has like a graveyard of CEOs.
Oof.
Maybe you should put a little tombstone on all the ones that are gone in the book.
Yeah. I would like to.
Oh, your mic's gone. See you later, D. Look at that. This quiet yelling in the video.
And then you heard that Matrix noise. Yeah.
I can't make the Matrix noise. I'm not good at modulating.
So that book is gonna be launching real soon, man.
When?
It's gonna be good. By Christmas.
I'm gonna have a book by Christmas.
Yes.
Am I gonna have a book by Christmas?
Yes.
Nice. put it on my coffee table, although it's not a coffee table book.
No, it's small. It's a smallish book, and not in scope, but in size.
Oh shit, we're gonna have books.
Books.
Have a holly jolly Christmas in this month.
I'm gonna give them to everybody, and those are the shitty Christmas presents that all my family's getting.
Ooh, that's a great way to not have to give out Christmas presents.
Aaron's like, what are we gonna buy everybody for Christmas? It's like nothing. We're gonna give them my book. Make them read it.
You think Andreas does that? He just gifts everybody his book.
I would, if I was Andreas. Like, you need to read this, learn this.
That's a way to set up a reputation in the family right there.
I'm pretty sure I have about like 100 Ether cards lying around here somewhere.
With money in it?
Yeah. Well, they don't have any money on them now. They're basically just paper wallets. They can load up.
Oh, okay. I have some $D laying. They're actually in my backpack, actually.
I don't know what that is.
I just made paper wallets and put my face on it.
How much money's on them?
Shit, at the time, I made them $5 worth of ETH in the middle of last summer.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. You guys do some backwards math on that. So they got up to being kind of expensive. And then I gave one of my cousin-in-laws a whole ETH last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then it went way up in price and he started feeling guilty. And he was like, dude, are you sure you don't want me to give this back? And I was like, I mean, no. Ish.
I kind of want it back. You want to give me, just keep what I gave you in terms of fiat and give me the rest back.
Well, if he didn't cash out, I'm sure he's feeling a little less guilty right now.
Yeah, now he's like, man, you gave me this fucking bullshit.
I saw a lot of the Thanksgiving posts on Reddit that were like, man, last year, if you got your family to invest, they're going to be upset with you this year. So get ready for that.
I just got a couple of those texts yesterday, like, hey, should I be selling? And I was like, ooh. Talk to your financial.
Well, there goes D's voice. Your microphone
it discredits us from talking about anything else. Like Thanksgiving 2 years from now, you'll be like, "Hey guys, the PlayStation 5 looks really good." And they'll be like, "Shut the fuck up! We're not listening to you anymore."
Your advice is good for 3 months, and then it's over.
We're not listening to you anymore.
Yeah, my parents. I think my family's still surprised that I'm in the space still and not worried about it. And they're like, are you sure you're not worried about it? Because like, I've been watching the value of what you told me to invest in. I think it's going down the drain. It's like, I don't want to think, whatever. I'll see you in a couple of years.
We'll see. Even that, I mean, it's been a good run. Got a few jobs out of it. Some notoriety.
I got a sweet job and it's not going anywhere. I hope.
Let me tell you something about.
I hope next year it's like I'm like, yeah, that job was fun, but it didn't last.
Yeah. Famous.
That's like Pete Davidson saying, "Yeah, me and Ariana Grande forever. It's gonna be forever."
Ooh, man. Let me tell you something about Microsoft Surfaces. That's why my fucking mic keeps going out.
You sure it's the Surface?
I'm pretty sure it's the Surface. It's the connection. This USB connection is all loosey goosey. Like I can wiggle it around. I don't even know.
Have USB connections.
Yeah, that's true. In an Apple world, you just get whatever they tell you to get.
I have a lightning cables.
Yeah.
Dongle fever.
Yeah.
Maybe we should wrap up before my mic drops the 50,000.
We can wrap up on dongle fever. Why don't you give the people what they want and tell them how they consume us, because they're already listening to us and they don't know.
Yeah, so shout out to the very few new YouTube subscribers we have. We're syndicating our stuff on YouTube now, which we probably should have been doing for 4 years, but whatever.
Yeah, nothing changed in the technology that allows us to do it now. We just didn't do it.
We didn't click the buttons. Yeah. So, yeah, sue us.
Eat your heart out. Lower shin. We know.
Yeah.
We're on your tail.
So we're syndicating there, and we have, get this, guys, a 10,000% increase in people watching our YouTube or listening to it.
You're doing are you doing like the bundle thing? You're just like went from 1 to 20.
Yeah.
The percentage increase of that is explosion.
Yeah. The thing I don't get is that YouTube gives you great analytics. So people are only listening to our show for 20 minutes.
Yeah, you actually get
20 minutes.
You get timing of YouTube.
So if they're only listening for the first 20 minutes, they're missing like a lot of our show.
I think they're only listening to the interview, right?
Well, the first 20 minutes is certainly not the first 20 minutes. They're just listening to us bullshit. And they're like, when are they going to talk about crypto? And they finally, after 20 minutes, are like, they're not. Okay, I'm going to move on.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. So maybe if you guys are, well, you're not going to hear this, but if you are listening on YouTube, just listen to the whole thing, because then you actually get some crypto talk in there.
Well, for the people that, like, there's a subset of people who listen to podcasts to absorb information about something they're interested in as efficiently as possible, right? They're using time that they have to listen to something and pay attention to it while they're doing something else to learn. We don't provide that service efficiently because there's an entertainment aspect to what we do. We're having fun doing this. We're not just trying to like put nuggets of information back to back so that people can absorb something as very, very quickly. That's not what we're doing.
And my message to all those people is like, there's a
fun.
reason why comedy movies have turned listening to audio things into a meme. It's not going to change your fucking life. All right. You need to actually read books to change it. Like, get the fuck out.
I don't know, man. I learn a lot when I listen to podcasts and books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, I ain't listening to us to do that.
Every time I hear somebody, I see, what was that show on HBO? The guy who was a Major League Baseball player and then like was an alcoholic, so he got kicked out and then went to the high school back to his hometown.
The fuck are you talking about?
I'm talking about the show. Like, it's got Masterson.
Eastbound and Down?
Yeah, Eastbound and Down. When he was in his car listening to his own self-help book, audio book. Yeah, that's
how you feel whenever you're listening to us?
Yeah, it's like, I hate when people are like, I read 100 books a month on Audible. And it's like, that's not reading. You're listening. You're just entertaining yourself.
Why not? That's why not. Why is that not reading?
Because it's not literally reading. There's different, like...
Well, it's the same. It's getting the same information.
In the brain.
It's getting the same information just through a different channel.
You're entertaining yourself.
No,
that's the same
listening to an audiobook is not... It can be entertaining, but depending on the content you're listening to, can be incredibly informative, just as reading is.
If I watch movies with subtitles on, does that just mean that, like, I've read 1,000 scripts?
Yeah, man. Congratulations. You're a script-reading motherfucker right there.
That is a perfect analogy, D. Joe. Your argument is dumb, D.
Well, look here. I don't go to CoinDesk. I don't go to Cointelegraph. I don't read anything. I don't listen to crypto podcasts. But I've heard every one of our shows, and I think I'm pretty knowledgeable. And that's because I've listened to you guys.
D is Cello is a maximalist on TBP.
I've listened to every show. It's pretty good.
I cannot say that whatsoever.
Well, I've heard it in real time. I don't go back and re-listen to it.
Okay, that's different.
Right.
And yeah, I've listened.
I've heard this episode right now as we record it.
I'm gonna go read 15 books today. I'm gonna put my Audible on 5x and soak in all that fucking knowledge.
It's the same content, so it's literally the same.
Things don't work like that, man. This is the Matrix. You don't just plug in and get knowledge just siphon straight into your brain. You got to read the book.
No, you don't. You can listen to a book and get the same information as reading it.
Are you going to be outside of libraries with a save library sign?
Yeah, I might as fucking well. All right, you got to read the book. All right, you got to.
You're like an old man pointing his hairdryer at cars going by too fast in the front yard. Like, get the fuck out of here.
That fire off when you're actually reading, and you're forced to take those symbols on the page and form an image in your head. It's more sustainable. There's permanence there. Instead of somebody just yapping some bullshit.
Maybe for you. Maybe you're a visual learner. Maybe someone is an Audible learner and they take things better through Audible.
If you listen to this, come in our Slack. Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, tell D's stupid. Come in Slack, tell D's stupid.
Yeah. I get told I'm stupid a lot. I'm
mostly by me, actually.
I'm very used to it.
I've been shooting down your ideas since we've known each other.
It's all good. Some of them shine though, like this podcast.
Touche.
That's it, guys. You can find our shit on the BitcoinPodcast.com. We do a lot of shit, man. I'm tired of saying it every week.
Hey, why don't I just create a website, findourshit.com, and it's got all of our shit on there.
To the website? It just goes to the website because that's where everything is.
Yeah. We'll buy findourshit.com. It goes to our website.
That has to exist. I'm checking. Hold on. That has to already exist.
I don't think you can have curse words in your URL, can you?
Yeah. Well, find out shit doesn't work. Apparently I have to put that. I guess you can't. Findourshit.com does not exist.
Well, there we go. We'll camp on that shit. So the Bitcoin medium.com / the Bitcoin podcast blog. It's not a blog, it's a publication. We have these week.
And your mic's gone. All right, we're out.
Oh, you know what? Fuck it. All right, play. Shout out to Zoe Saldana. Zazie Beats. Play. Oh wait, you're actually making fun of this shitty microphone situation. My bad.
You sound like Rihanna.
Play the outro.